Whoa boy, it's been a roller coaster to get here, but to be honest with you, Assassin's Creed Shadows is actually looking pretty good, despite the avalanche of bad press and controversy. There's been previews and many updates from Ubisoft about the project, and I think I'm finally ready to say that it's looking like it's going to be a great game. Nothing is for certain these days, especially in gaming, but the devs are being transparent about the game, and that does inspire confidence. However, we'll have to wait until the 20th of March to find out for real. Right at the beginning here, guys, I want to take a second to breathe in the world of Shadows. It's looking absolutely stunning. The weather, the leaves, the trees, the environments, everything is so damn pretty, and I really love it. I think it's going to be a joy to exist within this world, and I just hope it feels alive, like a real place once we finally get our hands on the game. The map looks huge, which isn't always a good thing. In fact, I generally like my Assassin's Creed games a lot smaller, all contained within one big city, rather than the giant explorable map. But for an RPG Creed game, it's looking pretty nice. I can't wait to explore every corner of this map and find its secrets. There's going to be parkour challenges out in the world and maybe assassin tombs that they've kind of teased. I mean, maybe this is just a one-off, but I'm hoping that they are more than that. Some detailed story, heavy side quest mission thing that I don't think I said any of that correctly. Anyway, you get the point. I would love that, like a return to the side content of Brotherhood. I'm just speculating here though, so mostly ignore that. I'm loving the power and sort of majesty of this world, the size of the surrounding mountains and the grandness of the Japanese landscape. It all feels really immense in all the clips that we've seen of the world. And if Ubisoft is good at anything, I'd say they are industry leaders in making beautiful worlds. Sometimes they fail to put anything worth doing in those worlds, but you know, that is beside the point. I am hopeful that it's different in this game and there is a reason to go and do all the exploration in this game. From what I've seen, I do like the look of Naoe's side content. Yasuke's is a little bit less interesting to me, but that's because I prefer the older style games, which Naoe seems to embody much more. I think the Hideout is going to be a fantastic new upgrade to the settlement that we had in Valhalla. I did not like it in Valhalla at all, but in Shadows it's looking really truly fantastic. You can place buildings where you want and decorate them with all sorts of items that you can earn throughout the game. You can even place trees and animals. I used to be a Minecraft YouTuber and I know how creative people can be. And I'm really looking forward to all the amazing hideouts that people are going to create with this system. The Hideout is going to be a hub for your assassin operations where you can meet recruited NPCs and other characters loyal to your cause. There's also lots of in-game things to do here, just like upgrading your equipment and stuff like that. Being able to explore a personalized part of the world that I designed in such a beautiful next-gen game is gonna be pretty cool. And it seems to handle itself perfectly well with the entire area plotted out with lanterns that produce both light and move in the wind. And because of the new weather system, the wind looks amazing. I know that's a weird sentence to say, but I mean, look at the footage. It looks almost real at this point, and it isn't just going in one direction. All the leaves and other objects have their own movements different from one another, as we can see by all these lanterns that move independently of each other. Objects that create light and move are some of the harder things for a game engine to process, so seeing all this working like this is actually pretty impressive. There's a new cloud system which seems pretty cool. In a recent tech Q&A, Ubisoft described the new feature as follows. Atmos is a procedural physics-based weather simulation that generates cloudscapes in Shadows. Before, clouds were manually crafted by artists and copy-pasted into the sky, like a Photoshop montage. This limited the variety of cloudscapes that were possible to create, and oftentimes ended up in unnatural compositions. With Atmos, we're able to simulate natural cloud formations, and they aren't static anymore. They constantly evolve over time. Transitions between weather states are more fluid as well. For example, after a storm, clouds dissipate in a very natural way. The weather system is not just about rain either. There's seasons in the game that completely change how you can approach your missions. In the winter, you will have to be careful sneaking along walls and rooftops as icicles may break off and fall and reveal your position. And a pond that you once swam through is now frozen and you must find another way to stay hidden. In certain seasons, the grass will not grow as tall, so sneaking through them won't be an option. And again, you will have to find another way in. Unfortunately, the previews were only set in 2 of the 4 seasons, so we haven't been able to see much of this system yet, but it does sound promising. The rain and the wind also affect visibility and sound, so you can stay hidden or make more noise in these weather conditions. Not to mention that the appropriately named Shadows has a huge emphasis on light, where you can use it to your advantage to remain completely stealthed. You can break lanterns to create more hiding spaces at night. All these systems together seem to have made the stealth and the general gameplay much more varied, and you must rely more on changing up your style to try new approaches, instead of just doing the same thing in every mission. I think that's pretty great. I'm really going to enjoy engaging with all these new systems. The story is looking to be much better around this time too. This studio is responsible for the 2 games in the series which have silly and ridiculous tones. I was initially worried when I heard that they were making Shadows, but most of the previewers have said that the tone is much darker, much more serious, and I am all for that. I don't mind a joke or funny moments, but a game with a terrible tone that doesn't match the setting or the overall story just takes me right out of the game. I don't get immersed at all, because why should I take it seriously if the game itself doesn't? Thankfully, it's looking like they have made a considerable change for the better in this regard. I like that they're going to make the important moments feel meaningful, without Jacob Fry popping in to make a bad joke or something. It's looking like they're really going to address how Yasuke was treated in Japan at first, as you can see in the story trailer. Being an outcast and figuring out this world as an outsider, just like I will be when I do my playthrough, I think that's a great approach, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do the rest of the story, and how Yasuke finds his place in this world. Naoe is also looking like a promising character, despite her inconsistent English voice acting. I think the character as a whole might be pretty impressive. She's the daughter of a famous shinobi and comes to blows with Yasuke at first. It'll be interesting to see how they come together in the end and how they reconcile their differences. Obviously, we haven't seen enough to make a final judgment, but I think it's looking positive on the story front. Ignoring the grifters and the racists, that is. A note on that actually, if you don't like Ubisoft, then that's fine. They've done many things in the past to garner hate and mistrust. I understand, but I'm not going to root for the end of a franchise or against the thousands of developers who gave years of their lives to make this game a reality. That's kinda pathetic. If you're enjoying the video, why not head down below and hit that like button for me? It really means the world to me, guys, honestly. So, thank you. So the parkour looks stylish and fluid, and it's only been looking better as the time goes on where they've got more time to develop it. The delays were really helpful for this game. It was definitely the right move. However, the world of Shadows, while looking gorgeous, doesn't really offer a great playground for parkour. Admittedly, we haven't seen any of the largest cities or villages, but what we have seen is that the architecture and the design of Japan at this time doesn't really lead itself to parkour very well. While I like the improvements to movement, I just don't see any opportunities to really use the systems to its fullest. It's like you have a ninja warrior champion in a child's playground. However, I love Naoe's speed and the moves that she can pull off. I am kinda hoping that the larger cities have more opportunities to use the awesome new systems, or else this will probably be a bit of a disappointment despite the strides they have made towards making the parkour better. And I have to also add that we're still not getting the more freedom-oriented moves from Ezio Trilogy, like the proper working side ejects, etc. They're in the game, but they just don't work like they used to. They're not useful at all. I have kind of realized that we'll probably never get those features back, but I can only hope, and continue to bring it up every release of every Assassin's Creed game until they stop making them. You may have noticed that I'm talking more about Naoe than Yasuke, and that's because I am an old school AC fan who just wants to be an assassin. I think Yasuke is fascinating from a narrative standpoint. His gameplay has not really excited me much at all though. I'm hoping to usually avoid combat outright if I can. I want to sneak in unseen, assassinate my target, and leave without anyone noticing I was ever there, except for the trail of bodies they'll discover in the morning. Yasuke is in stark contrast to this playstyle, so while I think he looks pretty awesome, I just don't think I'll have much use for him when I actually play the game. His inclusion does make sense though. There are lots of players who like all different parts of Assassin's Creed, and since the RPGs, we've had an influx of people who like the combat side of things. This is where Yasuke will shine, for the less discreet among us. You can just bust down the door and smash some faces in. I don't mind this approach, as it means that they can make a nice stealthy fast character for me, and a giant face pummeler for the other people. Because in Valhalla they had a big bumbling Viking who climbed slow and assassinated even slower, and honestly that's a crime against gaming in my opinion. The only downside of this dual protagonist setup is that the world now has to be designed for both characters to exist within and thrive, so that could lead to some issues. The biggest being that there are some places Yasuke actually cannot get to due to his lack of parkour skills, so that's kind of a bummer. Another is that both Naoe and Yasuke show up in the cutscenes even though only one of you snuck into the castle or whatever. Then the other shows up and says they got in another way or something. That just seems a little bit cheap and unrealistic, so I'm hoping this isn't too much of a problem for me when I play. but Ubisoft have acknowledged this and are making improvements. I don't know what improvements, but they're doing something about it. Naoe can still do combat, but she is just going to be a lot weaker and struggle a lot more. However, Assassin's Creed combat has never really been difficult, so I kinda welcome the challenge to make me think more about it than just mashing buttons. The gear in the game is looking promising. It all looks really cool, that's for sure. We don't have too much information outside of the previews, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty good. Now for some, this part may be a bit negative. There are only 2 parts to armor now, headgear and body. But they all seem to have play-altering effects that you can either build your character around or switch up your gameplay often with. Fortunately, the skill tree is freely resettable, so you can test lots of types of builds and playstyles out. I like the new skill trees as well. Each menu is smaller than a regular skill tree, but there are 6 separate ones for each character, so you can really build the characters you want with easy, readable menus, so you can find what you're looking for easily. Weapons all look cool. I love all the options for both characters, and they each play differently and require different types of skills and have unique abilities. Oh, there's also transmog in the game, on release, so that's pretty good. And I'm very happy that the double assassinations are back if you're carrying the Tanto and the hidden blades as a weapon. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. So far, performance is good. No reports of crazy bugs or anything. I think the extra dev time has really made this game polished, and according to the tech Q&A, is running smoothly at 60 FPS on performance mode on consoles. So that's great news too. I'm also loving the customization options for the HUD, and also there's a lot of great accessibility options. Now, a new mode called Canon Mode has been introduced in Assassin's Creed Shadows, which removes choices from the game, and the game will just play out like a regular old Assassin's Creed story, where that's just set in stone and that is what happened. The only choice you get is which character to play, but the story will be the canon events of the game. I think this is a cool option, and according to my poll on my channel, going to be a pretty popular one. Immersion Mode is where the characters speak their native language, is also a pretty cool, nice feature to have. Now there are still a few negatives I must discuss. Firstly, Naoe's voice acting is very inconsistent. Often she sounds good and has nuanced and interesting performance, usually in the more emotionally charged scenes. But in general talking cutscenes where she's just talking to another NPC, the acting seems to fall flat. I can almost hear her reading her lines. I will probably do my first playthrough in English so I have the clips for content, but I think I might do immersive mode for my next time through. But we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully this isn't a big issue. Subtitles aren't for everyone, so immersive mode might not be a fix for everyone. From what I've heard, all the other voice acting seems pretty good. I just want to clarify, I don't hate Naoe's voice acting, just at times it falls a bit flat, and it's something that's probably rarely going to bug me. Another issue is that Yasuke just might be left out in the cold for me gameplay wise, but we'll have to see when the game comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Subscribe to see more Assassin's Creed content coming your way soon. And thanks to my one and only patron, Alex Applegate. If anyone else wants to join that, link is down in the description. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Sticks out.